So anyways, oh, um, it was tearing us apart. It was tearing us apart.
I lost my brother. I lost him a long time ago.
Over the last few years, it's been like I would try to keep secrets of giving Scott money, and he would do the same, and we were like against each other because he would be like trying to hide it from each of us, and then we each found out about it, and then it made us argue because I was saying, well, why did you give him money? And he'd say, well, why did you give him money?
He had a good job, beautiful wife, and beautiful children. So it was difficult seeing him throw his whole life away. Once I got into the career field that I'm in, I had to somewhat dissociate myself from him because I couldn't be around him. But Scott is very manipulative, and he will try to talk his way out of everything, make it sound like everything's fine and cool. Numerous times he's come over wanting money. It's always, Gary, let me borrow $5, let me get $10 from you, I'll pay you back on Friday or whatever. And I would always tell him no, that with my position as a law enforcement officer, I could not enable him to continue his addiction.
And then the excuses Scott always came up with all the time, that he needed the money. We believed him, and then we were catching on to the lies because the lies were getting the same over and over. I mean, we could say, we would know what he was going to say and what he wanted the money for before he'd even ask. So we went to meetings with him. We sat down. Maybe it wasn't always the right thing, but we'd sit down and try to talk to him. We tried to say, what if we do this, or what if we do that? If we help you get into this meeting, or we went to meetings with him. We tried shaming him, which didn't work. And I think at times he thinks he knows that he affects us, but then again, he just easily wipes that right out of his mind and has an excuse for it. So then he starts believing his excuses, and once he believes his excuses, then it's like no matter what you say to him, or I say to him, or anybody else says to him, he's right. He thinks in his mind, he believes his stories, he believes what he's saying.
I've been using opiates for almost 11 years. I went from prescription pain pills to heroin. Been using heroin for about 5 years. I do realize that I do affect other people in my addiction, like my family members or friends, but during your addiction, the last thing you're really thinking about is other people's feelings. You actually are doing the drug to forget about everything and make yourself numb. I do regret a lot of things. I would change everything if I could, but I can't. And all I could do is make an effort to better myself now and try to mend them relationships. I knew that my parents were fighting over my addiction. One would try to help me 1 minute, and the other would try to go against it, and it would be a constant battle between them. And I really regret that, and I want to apologize to them for that. And as far as my brother, I know he loves me. I love him, and I apologize to him also. I do regret a lot of things, like I said, but I can't change that. All I can do is just try to move forward. And I guess in this addiction, no one's going to come knock on your door and come to help you and walk you through this. You have to be your own advocate. You got to want to help yourself. And until you reach that means of that being tired, being sick and tired of doing it, and wanting to change your life, nothing will change. It's not easy to change. It's something you got to work on every day, but it's still possible.
I didn't notice anything at first. I just remember my dad, just one day my mom and dad being divorced, and then he just wasn't in my life. I felt that he didn't care for us anymore. I felt that he was doing it to get rid of us or to forget about us. I felt that he just didn't care about us. I remember my grandma just absolutely being so frustrated that she would break doors. I remember my grandpa being so mad he would physically get my dad out of his house because he didn't want us, his grandkids, to see him like that. And then once I realized what was going on and I found out that there was ways to get help, I felt that I should tell him about those ways and that he would listen to me and that he wanted to get help. But he would be in rehab for a week, get out. He would be perfectly fine. He would be like our old dad, like we loved him and we wanted to be around him, and then he would go back to his old ways and he would disappear for a month. A few years ago, I kind of just gave up on him. I knew that if he didn't want to help himself, he wouldn't, and I couldn't do anything about it, and there was no point in even trying to see him or trying to go around him because I knew there was no help, and it frustrated me, and I didn't want to be frustrated. I just wanted to be done with him. If he didn't want to be around me, I didn't want to be around him. I remember being super excited to come over here because he was here, and then seeing him like that, like he looked super thin, he looked super pale, he just looked out of it, he wasn't even there, and then you're just super sad and just felt like crying, but you couldn't cry because if you cried every time you saw him like that, then you'd never stop crying. If I were to give advice for someone that is experiencing what I'm experiencing, I would say to try and go to the person that's addicted to whatever it may be and tell them that you're there for them and that if they need you to be there, then you will. They are not going to help themselves until they're ready to help themselves, and you just need to understand that. And it's not you. You just need to understand that they won't do anything about it until they're ready to do something about it. You just need to be there to help them along the way, if possible. I would say to try not to be so hard on yourself. Don't ever think that it's your fault. It's them. They just want to get away from reality. Even though you may be in their reality, it's not always you. Or try and put yourself in their shoes. Like, it's not something that you can just stop one day. It's a process that they have to go through. Oftentimes with addiction specifically, it's really easy to just give up on them or call it quits, but that's probably the last thing that they want you to do because they need your support. And I love my dad. I will always love my dad. And I'll always be there for him. I'm Vanessa Allred, and this is my life.
And this is my life.
And this is my life.